The Canada experiment. Is this the world's first post-national country? Well, if you suggest that they become the 51st state, I would say that they become very non-post-national very quickly.
How did you know? Did you know I stumbled across a thing that Justin Trudeau said that the post-national today? I stumbled across it.
Well, he said it a long time
Today?
ago. No,
No.
it's from a long time ago. So here we go. When Justin Trudeau said there's no core identity, no mainstream in Canada, he was articulating a uniquely Canadian philosophy. So as 2017, let's see how the experiment's going, and then we'll check in with how we're feeling about it.
All right. Okay.
As 2017 begins, Canada may be the last immigrant nation left standing. Our government believes in the value of immigration, as does the majority of the population. You think that's still true? We took in an estimated 300,000 newcomers in 2016, including 48,000 refugees, and we want them to become citizens. Around 85% of permanent residents eventually do.
Permanent residents. So what do you mean? So that when they come in and become permanent residents, then they become citizens? Well, how many of those people become permanent
resident would be a citizen, basically, you know? Like that's what a lot of people are in the States. They don't get they get permanent resident. So let's go. The Greater Toronto area is now the most diverse city on the planet. This is 9 years ago, with half of its residents born 8 years ago outside the country. Half of its residents born outside the country. Half of its residents born outside the country. Vancouver, Calgary, Ottawa, and Montreal aren't far behind. Annual immigration accounts for 1% of the country's current population of 36 million. Now it's what, 42?
I think so, yeah.
Canada has been overpraised lately for going about our business as usual. In 2016, such luminaries as Barack Obama and Bono no less declared the world needs more Canada. The Economist blared, "Liberty moves north. Canada is an example to the world." So,
and then what happened 8 years later? I mean, really?
Here we go. Wait, by 2030, it's projected to be 100%. So there are practical reasons for keeping the doors open. Starting in the 90s, low fertility and aging population began slowing Canada's natural growth rate. 10 years ago, 2/3 of the population increase was courtesy of immigration. By 2030, it's projected to be 100%. The economic benefits are also self-evident, Graham, especially if full citizenship is the agreed goal. All that settlers, Canadians who are not Indigenous to the land, need to do is look in the mirror to recognize. That's a nice little throwaway line in the middle of it. Little fucking self-hating white dude. Need to do is look in the mirror to recognize the general happy end of an immigrant saga. Yeah, because the Indians are loving it, bro. Our government repeats it. Our statistics confirm it. Our own eyes and ears register. Diversity fuels, not undermines prosperity. The remark made in he added, here we go. So here it is. The Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, articulated this when he told the New York Times Magazine that Canada could be the first post-national state. He added, there's no core identity, no mainstream in Canada. The remark, made in October 2015, failed to cause a ripple, but when I mentioned it to Michael Bach, Germany's Minister for European Affairs, who was touring Canada, he was astounded. No European politician would say such a thing. He thought it was too radical.
He was like, we're fluid.
A European would think that thinks it's radical.
Yeah.
For a European, of course, the national state model remains sacrosanct. Never mind how ill-suited it may be to an era of dissolving borders.
Well, this is a good setup for the bitch session I'm going to have right after this to see how it's been going in the last 8, 9, 10 years.
Yeah. So
what's this about the French? You want to read them about the French?
No, it's not worth getting into. I'm going to get down to the just the last few paragraphs, and then we'll jump ahead back to we'll get back in the time machine. I don't want to spend too much time on the fucking Guardian, you know. We're still working on the language. The same Canadian who didn't appreciate being told he has no identity might rankle at being called a citizen of an incomplete nation. The American and European citizen, too, may find all this chatter about inclusion and welcome ethereal, if not from another planet, given the events of 2016, in which the U.S. elected an authoritarian whose main policy plank was building a wall. Britain voted to leave the EU in large part to control immigration, and right-wing political parties gleefully hostile to diversity may soon form national governments, including in France. So none of this raw populism is going
That's
away.
still this is all from 2017 still, right?
Yeah. In
Okay.
2017, especially as it gets further irritated by the admittedly formidable global challenge of how to deal with unprecedented numbers of people crossing national borders with or without visas. But denial, standing your nativist ground, doing little or nothing to evolve your society in response to both a crisis and less obviously an opportunity, these are reactions, not actions, and certain to make matters worse. If the pundits are right that the world needs more Canada, it is only because Canada has had the history, philosophy, and possibly the physical space to do some of that necessary thinking about how to build societies differently. Call it post-nationalism or just a new model of belonging. Canada may yet be of help in what is guaranteed to be the difficult years to come. Year to come, he says, but I'm assuming he meant years. Okay, let's jump ahead to today. Which one should we do here? Okay, where are we at? 8 years later?
No, it's well, yeah, I guess it would be 8 years, yeah.
It's the right time to rethink post-nation Canada.
Oh, this must be because Carney's in the wings.
There's reason enough for Canadians to be hopeful, even optimistic about the future, is tempting to despair in light of the problems like inflation, ever worsening housing affordability, and a possible tariff war with our biggest trading partner. But Canada has good reason to believe in itself. The U.S. president-elect is particularly taken with the idea of Canada becoming the 51st American state. Trolling aside, Donald Trump's Canada ambitions are more a compliment than a threat, and an indicator of the strategic importance of our vast country. So the post-nation problem. In 2015, at the beginning of his tenure as Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau stated that he sees Canada as the world's first post-national state and that there was no core identity. Post-nationalism can be defined as the process by which countries and national identities lose their importance relative to supranational, and global entities. In other words, globalism over nationalism. Many other Canadian politicians and leaders shared the same reverence for the idea of a post-nation. The allegiance to global initiative should trump national interests.
Oh my God.
Once post-national ambitions were declared, wheels were set in motion to make it a reality. Heavy emphasis on global commitments informed domestic and foreign policy objectives, tied as they were to treaties, initiatives, and benchmarks that weighed heavily on international obligations. Uncontrolled immigration policy stressed the nation, while initiatives in the name of taming climate change, like the Paris Accord and others, undermined our critical resource sector and overcommitted Canada to an unrealistic energy transition. Globalist agendas have an altruistic premise, which takes into consideration the interplay of nations to attain a better global governance. They make the case that a cohesive, world-inclusive approach to governance would be of maximal benefit to mankind more broadly. Organizations that favor globalism pursue international cooperation, but often confuse cooperation with subservience. Importantly, they are not elected by the voters, who have little to say in these initiatives but feel the brunt of their impact. Globalist ambitions are naturally at odds with those of sovereign nations, whose primary duty is the welfare of their own citizens. Western nations, Canada included, are seeing a surge in nationalist sentiment among voters who feel unfettered globalization does not serve their country's best interests. Traditionally, a government's job was ensuring the prosperity and protection of the voting citizen.
Wow, what a concept.
Yeah, while maintaining an interdependent but self-serving relationship with international partners. Putting Canadians first does not necessitate the abandonment of international obligations. In fact, a prosperous Canada would have far more value to offer internationally.
Right. I mean, I just wanted to ask you before you finish this off, when you read that other part about basically I would call them the parasitic managerial class, like, do they believe that it would work? Like, that it would actually help Canada? Like, did they not see that it would destroy us? It's almost like they think they're too smart for their own good or something. Like it's just unbelievable.